Mando!
All right, Adam. Well, I'm very excited to talk about this episode. It was jam-packed with a lot of Star Wars goodness, especially if you've been a fan of, previous Star Wars canon material. Um, so first of all, what were your overall thoughts about this episode?
So whereas last week I was kind of down on the episode, it's one of my least favorites. Polar opposite this week. This one's for me top 3 episode, I think, at least.
Yeah.
We'll see where it lands. Once season 2 plays out and I get to watch everything all the whole way through, you kind of see where that falls into place. But right now, I think it's easily a top 3 episode for me.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned the length of the episode earlier.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it being in that 30-some minute range?
A little disappointed. I mean, when we started off this season with a 50-minute episode, and we cut that back 10 minutes, and now we've cut it back 10 more minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of a downward trend.
It's a little bit disappointing, but I mean, however, in those 30 minutes was prime Mandalorian stuff. So it's kind of a quality versus quantity, in terms of what we're getting here. It's something I said the whole way through season 1 was I wasn't really that disappointed with the time because I loved the show so much. So I kind of got to go back to that. I think I was very excited to get more of it. So I am a little disappointed that we're going back to half-hour episodes, but Bryce Dallas Howard was back to direct this one. I thought she nailed it again.
She did a phenomenal job.
She can, as far as I'm concerned, she can direct whatever she wants in Star Wars.
I agree.
Solo too, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Keep it in the family.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought she did a tremendous job directing this episode. I've been very impressed overall with season 2 so far. Just, the visuals, everything seems like it's just been taken up a notch. Not only with the visuals and the scale and everything, but then also just the way everything is connecting. And we'll talk about that more. Just these big appearances that are happening right now. And just this episode even builds upon the Mandalorian lore and answers some of the questions we might have had from the first season about the Mandalorians themselves.
Right.
So yeah, this is one of my favorite episodes for sure. So we're gonna hit that spoiler warning and go into some spoilers for the Heiress. So our next segment of this review, I have just decided to call Jetpacks and Bantha Poodoo. Instead of highs and lows, what were your positives and negatives of the episode? Jetpacks and Bantha Poodoo. So let's get this out of the way. Did you have any lows or any Bantha Poodoo from this episode, Adam?
So I am still not a huge fan of Frog Couple. I like them as characters. I think this is where I've arrived at with them. I like them as characters. I don't particularly love how they were used because it turns out, Baby Yoda was just hungry last episode, and they were really just point A to point B, and then this episode they also babysat. So
yeah, they're just kind of like just there, kind of almost throwaway characters when there could have been a little more. Although I did like the moment that they shared.
The moment that's what I'm saying. Like the moment that they shared, I'm glad that they got their youngling or baby frog tadpole. I don't know.
Whatever it might be.
They got that. I felt that it was a little disappointing just how they were used, but I'm glad they got their moment. It was a really nice moment to reunite them both, and it was a great feel good moment in the show. I just wish there was a little more there, and that we didn't actually have to. IMDb actually credits him as Frog Lady and Frogman. I just come on, I don't frog. Why?
Yeah. I understand. And I think there was maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity when the Razor Crest was coming down into the atmosphere of Trask, and the he needed the frog lady to help. Mando needed her help basically, and
Mhm.
so she wasn't able to. She was struggling to kind of balance both pulling on that handle that's and also like protecting her young. And I thought there was a moment there where maybe the child could have like stepped in and helped, and
Yeah,
um,
he seems
whether it was
very
using the
passive this
force or
season.
something
Yeah.
to and he just was just kind of
Mhm.
not doing anything. So I felt like that was a slight missed opportunity.
So see, last week when I talked about, with it only being 40 minutes, and like this episode's 30 minutes, so there's really not much room
Hmm.
to cut stuff out of this episode. But where I was thinking last week, because we see Sasha Banks's character, kind of at the beginning of this, after they land, the frog couple reunite, and then you get that shot from the trailer of Sasha Banks, and then she disappears.
Hmm.
That would have been for me, that would have been a perfect place to end chapter 10. You
Yeah.
see Sasha
Yeah.
Banks' character, she disappears.
Hmm.
It's mysterious, just,
Yeah.
wraps up the frog storyline, and it
Right.
gets you into that next, who is Sasha Banks type thing.
Hmm.
That's where I think a perfect ending for chapter 10 would have been.
Yeah,
But
I could see that.
but yeah. But that's
Any
kind of
other
what I had in mind for last week. Any other lows? Not really. I mean,
Mhm.
to me, that was probably just the lowest part. So
Yeah.
the rest of this is incredible stuff that I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't really have any low points of the episode for me other than just the length of the episode,
Yeah.
but it's filled with all these good things. So, let's get into our jetpacks for this episode. And my first one is um, you know, Mando's kind of he's making this deal basically to go to this boat to discover the Mandalorians. And I just love when the main theme music kicks in and
Hmm.
there's this shot that kind of takes us from afar to onto the boat that Mando and the child are on, and I just thought that was just such a cool moment with the music and everything. And
Yeah, for
um
sure. And speaking of that, I loved we got so many Mon Calamari and Quarren live
yeah,
action,
yeah,
characters, and they looked amazing, wonderful.
they did.
That shot that you
They
mentioned
look
of the
great.
boat looks just incredible. This episode, as a whole, looked so good.
Yeah,
We
it
have
did.
the Imperial freighter. We have the Razor Crest landing and heading into the ocean.
Hmm.
It looked so good for a TV show.
The visuals this season are just top notch. They're just
Yeah,
amazing, and I can't tell what's real and what's not, and that's the whole idea. I think
yeah,
which they're doing a phenomenal job.
yeah.
I'm really
ILM
looking forward.
is doing
Yeah,
amazing things.
yeah, and I can't wait to see some behind the scenes stuff for this season.
Yeah.
Um, in the future. I also thought live action Bo-Katan was a huge high for me, because I thought Katie Sackhoff played her to perfection. I
Hmm.
mean, I thought she was just such a immediately likable character. Um,
Yeah.
going from animated to live action.
Yeah, Katie Sackhoff is just incredible.
Hmm.
Aside from this, she was in oh gosh, what's that show? Now I'm gonna
Was it
blank on the show.
Battlestar Galactica
Uh, Not what I'm
or
thinking of.
Star something like that?
It's the one that with the sheriff in Wyoming or wherever it is. It's on Netflix
Oh,
also.
okay,
But she was in that, and I'm gonna blank on the name until I'll probably say it until at some random point in the episode.
gotcha.
um,
Um,
so she's in that. She's an incredible actress, and I could
mhm.
tell as soon as she started talking, I was like, oh, there's Bo-Katan.
Yeah,
I could tell by the
yeah,
voice, and it
because
just
it's
looks like Bo-Katan come right out of Clone Wars and Rebels. It's perfect. Nailed
almost
it.
a seamless transition. I mean,
Longmire.
I was
Longmire is the show that she's. It's the other show that
okay,
I
there it
can't
is.
remember her
You
from. But yeah,
thought of it.
Battlestar
Um,
Galactica. I remember her
yeah,
from Longmire, where she was incredible in that. So
but I mean, and Adam, I was a little concerned about animated characters and how they would translate to live action. But this was done so well,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah. Um, I thought it was great, and she's a badass. I mean, she just took care of business too. I mean, it's fantastic.
yeah.
Um,
That whole thing. I already mentioned Sasha Banks a little bit, but um, she was incredible too, and you can
Hmm.
kind of see where that WWE fight training comes into
Yeah.
comes into play because she was kicking some butt also. She's not Sabine Wren, by the way.
No, she's not. I never
Casca
thought she
Reeves.
was going to be.
Yeah, you remember
um,
back when we did last week we talked about Brand New Planet, and before that we
yeah,
also talked about maybe Sasha's a brand new character. She's a brand new character.
brand new character.
Casca
Yeah, she
Reeves, by
she
the way.
she never really looked like Sabine to me. Um, But yeah, I also loved that this episode really deepens the lore of the Mandalorians and provides some of those answers from season one. Like why do these Mandalorians always wear their helmets
Yes,
and always
yes,
cover their
yeah,
faces when we know that characters like Bo Katan and Sabine don't. And Bo Katan kind of explained almost the split off of different
yeah,
ways of following the Mandalorian culture. And I thought that was just really interesting and it
yeah,
answered those questions.
yeah. Some great Mando lore there.
Hmm. So, can you
I was
explain
proud
this
of
a little bit
that.
more? Some Manda lore.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
explain some of this Manda lore to us, Adam.
yeah, so basically what she told, she kind of figures out that she calls him a child of the Watch, which she calls a culture of zealots, religious zealots,
Hmm.
and they're mainly looking to seize power, take control of Mandalore, and return things to the old ways. But we saw in the animated shows that that's not really the way they're going anymore on Mandalore, and that the
Hmm.
the Watch, as she calls it, have really been kind of kicked out. They're
Do you think this is related to Death Watch? Is this the
yeah.
same type of thing? Or?
Yeah, and remember season one, he was rescued by Death Watch, kind of raised by them.
Hmm.
So it seems like he's kind of following in their idea of what the way is. But he's coming to learn that there's more than maybe
Hmm.
just that way. So Bo Katan's kind of introducing him to that. She's taking off her helmet. He can't fathom that. But they are in two different senses of the word, they're true Mandalorians, and we find out later in the episode Bo Katan's really looking to get that dark saber back. We've been discussing the possibilities of that. She's
Hmm.
after Moff Gideon. She wants to get that dark saber back, so that
Yeah.
she can take back Mandalore and restore power, to the true Mandalore, to the throne. So
Yeah. And I always thought it made so much sense for Bo-Katan to show up in this season,
yeah,
just because of that dark saber showing up at the end of season one, and like, how did Moff Gideon get it from her, and is she going to get it back? And
yeah,
and now I'm wondering, is the Mandalorian going to be a convert to this other way
I think
of
so.
the Mandalorians? You know what I mean?
Kind
Um,
of feel it going that way.
so yeah. Um, so just awesome stuff, awesome lore stuff. Loved it.
Yeah.
Definitely some high points. And then
And
you
I want to
got your
mention next
wish.
week. Next week, Jess from Stories by Dark Saber Light, she's going to join us for the
Okay.
podcast. So
Yeah.
she'll catch us up on all of that because I know I'm not
On all that stuff.
doing it
Yeah.
justice here, but yeah, she'll catch us up on all of that.
Yeah, it's something that I'm not very well versed in, but I'm interested in
Hmm.
nonetheless. But your boy, the villain, Moff
Finally,
Gideon, made an appearance in this episode. I didn't know if he would or not, but he did in hologram form. So that was pretty cool as well.
yep,
What did
yep,
you think
he's
of that?
finally back. Like you said, holograph form or hologram. Just not a big part for him, but we got an interesting
But
line
it
from him.
teases the
Long live
villain
the
though,
Empire.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, long live
teases
the
the
Empire.
villain. You found out from. We're going to talk about him a little bit later, but Titus Welliver was in this episode, and
Hmm.
his
Hmm.
character. You find out that Gideon's an evil dude. He doesn't mind
Yeah,
killing. You know, when it serves his
right.
interest, like he said in chapter 8. So
Hmm. Yeah, and that kind of brings us to the Star Wars version of a cyanide pill.
yes, it does.
um, I'm not sure what exactly that was, but it had similar effects to just basically taking yourself out for to long live the
But
empire.
it was electrocuted him. I mean that
Yeah, it was like yeah, it was kind of
that's
cool even.
That's intense, man. That's not just
Yeah, it
like
was interesting.
that's not just cyanide. That's intense.
Hmm.
Kind of reminds it's like almost like was it Green Mile?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, kind of like
that's
that.
kind of brought back those vibes for me. That was a little rough to watch
It
for
was.
me anyway.
Um, yeah, and then the moment that Bo-Katan, and I didn't know if Mando was going to have to do something else before I had a feeling he was going to meet this character in this season, but when Bo-Katan said Ahsoka Tano, I
Hmm.
about lost my mind
Yeah,
because I didn't know if they were going to try to make it like some surprise reveal until we saw her, but no, she just came out and was like, "You got to go find Ahsoka." Um,
yeah,
so we know it's coming, and that is awesome.
yep.
So
So
excited.
we might see Ahsoka as early as next week.
We could. I think that we will definitely see her in episode 5, which would be chapter 13, I believe. Um, because I think Dave Filoni is directing that episode. So I think it would make perfect sense. Um, so if we don't see her next episode, maybe we see her at the end of the episode or something. I don't know, maybe,
Right,
but
right.
I think we'll definitely see her in that Filoni episode because he owns the character. So he protects that character very much.
Yeah.
And were there any other high points for you that I missed? Any other jetpacks this week?
No, I don't think so. I think that about covers it.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to our next segment of the review, which I have renamed instead of Easter eggs and references, which was boring. I've renamed it to Suga, as the Jawas say. So let's take a look at some of those.
Hmm.
First of all, was a homage to Apollo 13 because Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode. Her father, Ron Howard, of course, directed Apollo 13, and we're talking about the re-entry into Earth's atmosphere and kind of the the burning process that takes place. Um, and we see that as the Razor Crest enters into Trask's atmosphere. So I
Yeah.
thought that was a pretty cool
Yeah,
kind of
that was
homage to
definitely
that.
pretty cool. Yeah.
And Bryce Dallas Howard confirmed that on Twitter as well. Yep, that was a reference to that. And we also saw when the Razor Crest went into the water when it was trying to land. We see this basically walker
Hmm.
slash crane, which I thought was really cool. So it had like walker legs
Yeah.
and everything, but it was also like a crane that lifted the ship out of the water.
Yeah,
So that
and
was pretty
again,
neat.
looked incredible.
Hmm. It
Picking
did.
that Razor Crest up out of the water, water pouring off of it. The crane
Yeah,
looked incredible. It
it
all
looked
looked,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of when Yoda pulled the X-wing out of the swamp on Dagobah. It kind of had
okay,
that same look and feel to it with the water coming off of it
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
everything. And then this is a fun fact that I just discovered last night. Janina Gavankar, who was of course Iden Versio,
Hmm.
and I don't know if I said her name right or not. Um, but she helped to puppeteer one of the Mon Calamari. I think the one who was actually watching Mando try to land the Razor Crest. Um,
Right.
and help puppeteer that. So that was kind of a fun fact.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we'll see Ian Versio or not, but I thought that
That
was
would be
cool.
cool. But I
Mhm.
don't know that, I don't know that there's a place for her to pop up in this show.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it has to make sense. We don't want
Yeah.
to just see all these characters for
This
no
seems to
good
be dealing
reason.
with an offshoot of the, one of the Imperial remnants that seems to be kind of led by Gideon, so
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not quite sure if it makes sense
Yeah,
to see Iden Versio pop up there. But,
very true. And then we already mentioned, Katie Sackhoff
yeah.
playing the role of Bo-Katan. Titus Welliver, you briefly mentioned. He was in Sons of Anarchy. He is
Bosch is on
the
Amazon.
lead actor of Bosch.
Yeah, which is a really good
Um,
show if you've never got a chance to watch it. Really well. Really
yeah,
good.
and he played that Imperial officer
Loved
who
it.
took the cyanide electrocuting pill thing,
Yeah.
Majig.
Yeah,
Um,
he was incredible in that role. It was very
he's a
cool to
good
see.
villain.
Yeah, it was very cool to see him pop up.
Hmm. Yeah,
So I don't know if I missed it. I don't know if that was announced earlier, but I didn't know he was going to be in that episode. So I don't know if I missed that
right.
in news or forgot about it. I don't know, but it
Yeah,
was
I
very
didn't.
cool to see him.
It was, and then We had one more. You already mentioned this
Yeah, we already talked
one.
about Sasha Banks, but we definitely we got to see her, and it was not Sabine Wren, but it was
Hmm.
Costco Reeves is her character name. So, but
Costco Reeves.
we got to see, it. And it's interesting because I mean, there were parts of it where, until I went looking for casting and found out that wasn't Sabine, there were parts of it that kind of did look like it might have been Sabine, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but but yeah, that was an incorrect rumor before, so that's cool.
Indeed. So now let's move on to our score for the episode, and we're going to be doing this with Beskar ingots. I don't know, it might be difficult to see because of my lighting and everything, but so how many of these would you give this episode, Adam? You can do halves as well.
uh, are we doing 10 of those as a full set of armor?
Yeah, 10 is a full set.
Let's go with 9 Beskar ingots.
9 Beskar ingots.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm really close to 9.5 on
Okay.
this episode. Um, because I don't think we've quite gotten to perfection yet, but it was very good. Um, I'm gonna go 9.5.
We got to thank Pat and Charles for the Beskar that we got to show off there.
Yes, thank you, Pat and Charles, for this Beskar. It's kind of
Conversations.
hard to see
Which,
because
by
of
the
my
way,
lighting.
our episode that we recorded with them dropped this week. So
Yes,
make
indeed.
sure y'all check that out because it was a lot of fun.
You will laugh a lot. Your face will probably hurt.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that wraps up our Mandalorian: The Heiress review. Can't wait until next week's episode.